Hello students, this is the second part of force and laws of motion. In our previous part we have studied about what is force, what are the effects of force and types of force as balanced and unbalanced force. Also we have seen that balanced force is such a force which cannot change the state of rest or of uniform motion of an object, but it can change the shape and size of an object. In this part of force and laws of motion, we will discuss what is unbalanced force with some examples, and later on we will see Galileo's experiment and first law of motion. So let us start. Before going in detail with this part, let me recall you a concept from previous chapter, that is vector quantity. So students, you know that vector quantity is that quantity which has both magnitude as well as direction. But how the vector quantity can be represented? So vector quantities can be represented with the help of an arrow. As you can see here, there are two vector quantities represented as below. Also, when you observe these two vectors carefully, you can say that the vector x has a larger magnitude than the vector y, and also the direction of x is opposite to direction of y. It means we can say that larger the length of arrow means larger the magnitude of vector quantity, and the arrow which is pointing in a particular direction represents the direction of that vector quantity. Now let us come to our topic, unbalanced forces. So what is the definition of unbalanced forces? When two or more forces acting simultaneously on an object having a non-zero resultant force and change the state of rest or of uniform linear motion of the object, then the forces are said to be unbalanced forces. It means we can say that if a number of forces are acting on an object, then these forces are said to be unbalanced if the resultant of these forces is not zero, and this resultant force can change the state of rest or of uniform linear motion of the object. For example, as you can see, there are two figures. So let us observe the figure A. In figure A, you can see that there are two forces F1 and F2 are acting on a block. From this figure, it is clear that the magnitude of F1, which is in right direction, is larger than the magnitude of F2, which is in left direction. Why? Because you can see the length of the arrow of F1 is large than the length of the arrow of F2. So we can say that the two forces that are acting on this block are not of same magnitude. So they cannot balance each other. It means these forces constitute an unbalanced force. But what will be the direction of net force? So the direction of net force is in that direction in which the larger force is acting. So in this case we can say that the net force acts in the direction of F1. So let us see. The net force F is equals to F1 minus F2, and it acts in the direction of F1. Now let us observe figure B. In this figure again you can see that there are two forces acting simultaneously on this block. The force F1, which is acting in right direction, is of smaller magnitude than the force F2, which is acting in left direction. It means in this case again we can say that the two forces which are acting on this block are of not same magnitude, so they cannot cancel out each other and they constitute an unbalanced force. But again, what will be the direction of net force? The direction of net force is in the direction of larger force. In this case, you can see the larger force is the F2, which is in left direction. So the net force is also in the left direction. And it can be calculated as net force is equals to F2 minus F1, which acts in the direction of F2. Now let us see some examples of unbalanced forces. So our first example is two children try to push a heavy box placed on a rough floor, as you can see in this figure. So these two children try to push this heavy box which is placed on a rough floor. So from this figure it is clear that this is the force of push which is acting in right direction, and also you know that whenever there is a relative motion between two surfaces, then there arises a force which is known as force of friction. As these two children are trying to push this heavy box over a rough surface of floor, so there arises a force of friction between the box and the floor. So from this figure it is clear that the force of push which is acting on this block by these two children is of larger magnitude than the force of friction. So we can say that these two forces are not balancing each other, hence they constitute an unbalanced force. And if there is an unbalanced force, then there will be a net force. So what is the direction of net force? So you know that the direction of net force is in the direction of the larger force. So the net force can be calculated as larger force minus smaller force, that is F1 minus F2. Hence we can write there is a resultant force or net force F1 minus F2 which is acting in the direction of F1, which causes this block to change its state of rest and the block starts moving. Now let us see next example. Our next example is consider two teams playing a tug of war. If the forces applied by two teams on the rope are unequal, as you can see from this figure, there are two teams, team A and team B. From this figure it is clear that team A are applying a force of 400 Newton in left direction and team B are applying a force of 300 Newton in right direction. It means the two forces are of not the same magnitude and also they have opposite direction. So there will be a net force because these two forces does not balance each other. And what will be the net force? The net force will be equal to 400 Newton minus 300 Newton, which acts in the direction of team A. So we can say that 100 Newton of net force acting on this rope and the rope will move towards the team A. Also, team B move towards the team A because there is a resultant force of 100 Newton in the direction of team A. Hence we can write as the team A are applying a greater force of 400 Newton, so they pull the rope as well as team B towards them. Here a resultant force of 100 Newton acts in the direction of team A. So what are the effects of unbalanced forces? An object at rest may start motion because of an unbalanced force. Because of the unbalanced force, a moving object may come to rest. An unbalanced force causes to change the speed of a moving object and it can also change the direction of motion of the object. So we can say that unbalanced force is the cause of changing the state of rest or of uniform motion of an object. Now students, you know, there was a Greek philosopher Aristotle, who stated that the natural state of a body is the state of rest. It means that every body in motion tends to slow down and come to rest. And he stated that an external force is necessary to keep a body moving with uniform velocity. But later on, Galileo performed an experiment with inclined planes which proved wrong the Aristotle's views. And while performing his experiment with inclined planes, Galileo observed that external forces were necessary to counter the opposing force of friction. But if there were no friction, no external force would be needed to maintain the uniform motion of a body. So now let us see the experiment which is performed by Galileo. So Galileo made such an arrangement using two inclined planes AB and CD and a heavy ball, as you can see in the figure 1. Now what Galileo observed that when he leave the ball at a certain height h1 from the plane AB, then while climbing on the plane CD, the speed of the ball goes on decreasing, and also it does not attain the same height h1 from which it is left. You can see from this figure that it attains only a height h2 on the plane CD. So there is a difference in height h1 minus h2. So he concluded that because of the opposing force of friction, the speed of the ball goes on decreasing, and also it does not attain the same height while climbing as from which it is left. So in order to overcome this problem, he made the two planes AB and CD frictionless and again performed his experiment. Now there arise three cases. Case 1 is when inclination of two planes are same. So inclination means that the angle which is made by the plane with horizontal. As you can see from this figure, the plane AB makes this much angle with horizontal and the plane CD makes this much angle with the horizontal. So it is clear that the angle which is made by the two planes AB and CD are equal. Hence we can say that the inclination of two planes are same. Now again what he observed that when the ball is leave at a height h1 from the plane AB, then while climbing on the plane CD, it covers the same distance as it cover while rolling down in order to attain the same height from which it is left. So we can say that the distance AB is equals to the distance CD in this case when the inclination of two planes are same. Hence we can write in this case the ball climbs the same distance as it covered while rolling down. Now let us see case 2. So case 2 is when angle of inclination of right side plane is decreased, that is the angle of inclination of the plane CD is decreased. Now from this figure it is clear that the angle which the plane CD makes with horizontal is DCY and the angle which plane AB makes with horizontal is angle ABX. So it is clear that angle CDY, angle DCY is less than angle ABX. Hence we can write angle DCY is less than angle ABX. It means the angle of inclination of right side plane, that is CD, is less than the left side plane AB. Now what he observed? He observed that when the ball is leave at a height h1 from the plane AB, then it climbs a more distance on the plane CD in order to attain the same height h1 from which it is left. So from these two cases we can say that as the inclination of the plane CD goes on decreasing, the distance covered while climbing up by the ball goes on increasing. And why this distance goes on increasing? Because every time the ball tries to attain the same height from which it is left. So now what happens when the inclination of the plane CD is again decreased to 0. That is, the plane CD is made horizontal. That is the case third. When the right side plane, that is the plane CD, is made horizontal. Now, Galileo concluded that when the plane is made horizontal, then when he leave the ball again at a certain height h1 from the plane AB, then the ball continue to move a infinite distance on this horizontal plane in order to attain the same height from which it is left. It means we can say that the ball would roll infinitely in order to attain the same height from which it is left. Again, from this case, it is clear that no unbalanced force due to gravity acting on this ball while moving along the horizontal plane CD. It means we can say that the ball is moving along this horizontal plane CD without any external unbalanced force. So Galileo concluded from this experiment that no net force is required to sustain uniform motion of ball along a smooth, frictionless horizontal plane. And in this way, he proved the views of Aristotle as wrong. Now, while working on Galileo's idea, Newton formulated three fundamental laws governing the motion of objects, which are known as Newton's laws of motion. So, there are basically three Newton's laws of motion. The first law is that an object remains in a state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change that state by an external unbalanced force applied on it. The second law is that the rate of change of momentum of an object is directly proportional to the applied unbalanced force on it and takes place in the direction of the force applied. And the third one, which is most popular, is to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now students, we will discuss these three laws one by one in detail. So let us see. So Newton's first law of motion. The statement of Newton's first law of motion is that a body remain in a state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless it is compelled by some unbalanced external force to change that state. Now it can be divided into three parts. First part, a body remain in a state of rest unless it is compelled by some unbalanced external force to change that state of rest. And second part, a body will remain in a state of uniform motion unless it is compelled by some unbalanced external force to change that state of uniform motion. And the third part is a body remain in a state of uniform motion in a straight line unless it is compelled by some unbalanced external force to change that uniform motion along a straight line. So let us see each of these part one by one. So first part is that a body at rest will remain at rest unless some unbalanced external force acts on it to change its state of rest. For example, you can see that a book lying on a table will remain at rest unless someone pick it or move it from one position to other. So it is very obvious that a body at rest will remain at rest. It does not start moving by itself without any unbalanced external force. Now let us see second part. The second part states that a body in uniform motion continue to move uniformly unless some unbalanced external force acts on it. Now there arises a doubt. This part states that a body will continue in uniform motion without any unbalanced external force. So is it possible? If it is possible, then why the car stops when the engine of the car is turned off? Why a ball which is rolling down on the floor gradually slows down and eventually comes to rest? So, in practical life, this is not possible because always there are some resisting force. For example, when a ball moving on the floor gradually slows down and finally stops. Why? Because there is a force of friction which is opposing the motion of the ball. So if we neglect these resisting factors like the air resistance or friction, then in that case we can say that this part is also true. So this part is true if we neglect other resisting factors. Now the third part is a body continues to move along the same straight line unless some unbalanced force acts on it to change its direction. Again, it is clear, for example, to turn a car moving on a straight road, we have to apply force on the steering wheel of the car. So from these three parts, we can say that Newton's first law of motion states that every time an unbalanced force is required in order to change the state of rest or of uniform motion, or to change the state of uniform motion along a straight line. In this way, Newton's first law of motion defines force. So, force can be stated as it is an external effort in the form of push or pull which changes or tends to change the state of rest or of uniform linear motion of an object on which it acts. Thank you, students. In our next part, we will discuss about what is inertia and why Newton's first law of motion is also known as law of inertia, and types of inertia as inertia of motion, inertia of rest, and inertia of direction. Thank you.